A lot of people don't actually know that there's a strategy for every single grammar question. And the reason why that is because grammar relies on very particular rules that if you just know and you know how to actually eliminate and apply based on them, you can answer every single grammar question correct 100% of the time. And you never have to use your ear, right? Because if you use your ear to figure out grammar questions on the SAT, you're leaving points on the table because you're leaving things to chance essentially, right? And what I mean by using your ear is this idea that you're trying to figure out what sounds the best or what, like, when you speak it, like what pause is correct and what correlates to a comma, right? Doing that is incorrect. You have to think about it very logically because it's all written down. There isn't a rule that you just have to hear. It's like something you just have to explicitly know. And that's the fundamental method to learning grammar skills. And that's going to boost your score if you just understand all of them, right? Stay tuned to the end. I'm going to talk about scholarship spots for SAT prep that I'm giving out for free. So hi, I'm Karthik. These are my strategies for SAT grammar questions. So first of all, I'm going to start off with this idea that, I wasn't always good at grammar. I actually tanked grammar like the first time I took a practice SAT. And the reason is because I used my ear, right? I literally took the test not fully knowing at all, like what rules they were testing. So of course I did bad. Of course I did bad because I didn't know what the rules were, right? And I progressed without actually learning the rules. I progressed a moderate amount, but I find myself hitting this roadblock where I didn't know further how to improve, right? And if you're encountering this, it's because you're missing the fundamental idea of what the grammar SAT actually tests. So I'm going to ask you, what does the grammar SAT actually test? Grammar rules. The grammar SAT tests your knowledge of very specific rules and also some grammatical concepts like redundancy and conciseness and main ideas, right? Do you fully understand of that, right? And also some of them include like sentence flow and word choice, but those are also very grammatical because there are logical ones and not logical ones. So if you just understand what it's looking for, you can figure out what it is, right? So it comes back to that idea. If I figured out that the grammar SAT was on grammar rules, I would focus all my time learning those grammar rules. So why aren't you doing that? Why do we use our ear and not explicitly know every single rule that's being tested, right? And, it seems like such a dumb question when it's framed like this, but almost like so many people who take the SAT make this mistake and never fix it, right? So watching this video, you have the opportunity to take advantage of this and fix this mistake right now. You're going to be able to linearly progress in grammar, like you know it or you don't know it, and you're going to be able to quickly identify what is the right way to do it, what is the wrong way to do it, right? And it comes down to 2 steps, right? The first step is learning the rules, and the second step is practicing the correct method. Okay, the first concept, right? Learning the rules. Khan Academy has all of them. I'm just going to say that, right? They have every single rule, videos explaining the rules. It's completely free. They have practice questions that are accurate. If you haven't watched all those videos, right? Let's say you don't score that well in grammar. If you haven't watched all those videos and taken notes, right, on the videos that maybe you're not as good at or you're not as familiar of for that specific skill, you're just limiting your potential. If you haven't like taken the steps to actually learn every single rule that's tested, you're limiting your potential, right? You're leaving things to chance. You're leaving things to your ear, and you do not want to do that if you want to get a full score, right? Because this is actually a really easy section to get a full score on once you fully understand these concepts, right? Additional resources other than Khan Academy is College Panda Grammar. I use that personally. I highly recommend it. It's amazing, not necessarily for the practice, but because it teaches you every single rule. All those rules are specifically on the SAT. It doesn't teach you anything that's not on the SAT. And it also, the practice questions that they give you, even though they can't be SAT accurate because it's not affiliated with College Board, they have questions that are extremely close. But instead of using them for, practice, if you use them to actually learn them, right? So figure out if you actually know the skill, right? Then those questions are actually very useful for that sense, right? So you can fully learn it with that, but honestly, you can do it for free with Khan Academy online. It's so easy. Just learn the rules. Take notes on all the rules that are being tested and make sure you just learn all of them and not anything that's not tested, right? And the second part of this is memorizing those rules, right? You have to know them, but you have to be able to actively recall them on the test and be able to put them out if need be, right? So you should be able to know every aspect of every rule by heart, like every single purpose of a comma and where it's not necessary and where it's necessary and where it's should be and where it should not be. You should know that all by heart. just by looking at it and understanding the rules, right? Now, some people are going to hear that. They're going to hear, okay, I just need to memorize every single like location of the comma where it's necessary, right? Oh, independent, dependent, right? I just need to figure out where these commas belong and I'll be good. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just put supplemental clause on Quizlet, let's say, which is like a memorization software. It's like flashcards that runs through, and then they just like click and then make sure that they memorize them. They finish it through. They're able to recall every single one, but then they get to the actual test and they don't do well, right? And the reason why that is because you're not practicing the actual rule. You're just practicing memorizing the written rule, right? So if I write down what the rule is, that's what you're practicing, right? And you shouldn't be practicing that. You should be practicing the application. We want to memorize the rules themselves, not just a written definition of the rule, right? Make that like clear difference, right? The written definition of a rule, like commas are this, right? Versus the actual rule itself is when it's in practice, right? So learn all of their applications, take notes on them. But when you're focused on memorizing, memorize with practice. And this is actually way easier than memorizing the definitions of these rules, right? Don't memorize these definitions, memorize them through practice, right? Do a couple of practice questions with all the rules written out, and then try not to use them and see if you can remember them and remember them explicitly. Make sure that they're correct by reading over the rules after you've answered the question, and make sure you got the answer correct. And if you're unable to do that, then you probably have an issue with the learning phase itself of like learning the rules. So you just need to do that. But that's how you memorize the rules, right? Because you're not really memorizing them. You're memorizing how to use the rule, and that's good enough, right? Okay. So the method you apply to the questions, right? And it's this idea I kind of referenced beforehand, but now that you know the rules, you shouldn't use your ear, right? And memorizing the rules and learning all the rules that are tested on the grammar SAT is very intensive. So don't waste your hard work by using your ear. You're effectively eliminating all the work that you've just did if you continue to use your ear, right? In order to find correct answer choices, this is the framework you should use. It's basically the idea that if I have 4 answer choices, I know one of them has to be correct and all 3 of them have, like, other 3 have to be wrong. I need to be able to figure out the exact reason for all those 3 answer choices, why they're grammatically incorrect. What positioning of the word, what comma, what grammatical thing, what punctuation, what independent dependent clause problem, what redundancy problem, like what specific problem is the reason for all of those things to be wrong. So I read one answer choice and I'm like, oh, the comma can't be there, or then it would be run on sentence. So that one's incorrect. Question 2, I figure out, okay, I can't find anything explicitly wrong with it. 3 and 4, I found something that's explicitly wrong with both of them. So it has to be answer choice 2 because I've eliminated 1, 3, and 4 out of the realm of possibility because they are grammatically incorrect. Your answer choice should be grammatically correct, right? And every other answer choice should be grammatically incorrect for a logical and clear reason. And what that means is basically a grammar rule. A grammar rule is violated as a result, and you cannot pick those answer choices. It is 100% incorrect. That's the framework you use. You eliminate the wrong answers because you know all the grammar rules, and you just get faster and faster at that the more you practice it. So practice doing this method. Don't use your ear. Explicitly find out why the answer choices are correct or incorrect, right? If you can't find the reason to eliminate those choices, then you have a gap in your learning, right? I talked about that before. If you have a gap in understanding like why something is wrong or why something is correct and why one, and you're just, maybe you're unsure of one, right? You have 2 answer choices and you can't find the grammatically incorrect portion. You have a gap in whatever that skill is. So look for an explanation if you're taking a practice test, or if you don't know that, try to like discriminate every single portion, right? So every pronoun, every word choice, every difference between the two, and then highlight them and try to figure out which ones are correct and which ones are not correct in reference to the whole sentence, right? You need to have a clear reason for why it's wrong. That's the framework you use, right? But continue practicing this framework. And this is the part that's actually the hardest for people to stick to, is that they'll attempt to try this framework, and it's a 100% guaranteed framework. I know this because I have used it I have gotten a perfect score in grammar. I have students who have used it who have also gotten a perfect score at grammar. I also like I've had students who've used it who like only get one or two wrong in grammar now when they used to get like almost 40% to 30% of the test incorrect in the grammar portion specifically. So they didn't get to 100%, right? But they got to like one or two wrong every section. And if they keep using this framework, they will eventually get to that 100% accuracy rate. But I know this works because I've seen it work, and I know that it works because it works for me as well. You don't need anything new. Any new strategy, overall strategy for the grammar section, ignore it. Anything that deviates from this framework, ignore it. It's just going to be a distraction for you linearly progressing in this section. This is the only framework you need, and you need to continue your practice in all the sections, learning every skill, memorizing the skill, practicing the skill, and continuing to do it again and again until you get a 100% accuracy rate. And I know it's possible, and I know you can do it as well. No one is so special that this is not going to work for them. Okay, I'm going to talk about my SAT community scholarship. So if you watch any of my other videos, you know about my SAT community. It's where I give lectures on certain topics. You get one-to-one time with me. I answer any questions that you have 24/7 through the discussion posts on there. And I have a bunch of free resources that you can just take from there and use for your preparation, right? Like a bunch of QAS tests, a bunch of released exams, things that you typically can't find online for free, right? And I really want people to experience this. So for the next week, I'm opening applications to my SAT community for free, right? And this is the opportunity to work one-to-one for me, like, or not for me, right? With me for your SAT for free, right? Until your final SAT. So the last one that you're going to take. And the link is in the description to apply, but you should apply because I only have 10 spots. So I'm only giving out 10 spots to the best applicants. I'm taking applications for a week. And then shortly after that week, I would decide my 10 spots, and then that's it. You know, the form is closing after that, and those are the only spots that I'm going to be able to give, right? So apply if you're interested. I really love the chance for you to, one, experience this community, and two, you know, for me to be able to help you, and finally, three, for you to be able to get the score that you actually want, right? Thank you guys so much, and I hope you learned something today.